Last year, my fiance's sister's husband got fired from his job. There were some harassment complaints. Because he was the only one earning any income, they fell behind on bills and their mortgage. A few months ago, the bank foreclosed on their home, so them and their 2 kids had to move in with my fiance's mom. Her sister told her many times that the place is too small for them and that the 4 of them have had to sleep on the floor in the living room. They've been living there for close to 3 months now and are fed up. Just yesterday, my fiance sat me down and asked to help get an apartment big enough for the 4 of them and pay at least a few months' rent and utility bills. I get my fiance wants to help, but practically supporting them for months seemed like too much help. Now, I earn a pretty decent living, so this wouldn't be much of a problem. But here's the thing. I'm currently paying my nieces and nephews college tuition. They're twins, so they started college around the same time. If I put the extra money I earn into supporting her sister's family, I won't have enough to pay for their next few semesters. A little backstory. When the twins were 4, my brother, their dad, died. Their mom couldn't take the pressure, and she left them with my mom. I was 18 at the time, and my mom struggled to support them on her own. I always did what I could to help out because I love them like they're my own, and I felt responsible. When I moved up in my career, I promised I'd pay for their college education as long as they kept good grades and stayed out of trouble. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They're both now in their 2nd year. When it got serious with my girlfriend, now fiance, I made sure she knew that my niece and nephew's education came first, and that I'd always cover their school expenses, except for food and transportation since they pay for that themselves. And she understood that. But now she's asking me to stop paying for them in order to help her sister, and is mad that I'm refusing. I offered for us to give them enough for a down payment on an apartment, extra cash to pay off a couple bills, and help them move, but she said that wasn't enough. I reminded her that she said she understood when we first talked about this in the past, and she didn't want to listen, and she said she doesn't even understand why I'm wasting my money on them when they're not my kids, and they should learn to support themselves. I couldn't believe the way she was reacting. I told her if she wanted to help her sister so badly, then she can come up with the money herself. She called me selfish and left. We haven't spoken since, and I'm worried things might have gone too far. A part of me feels guilty for not wanting to help. Another part feels it's not fair to make my niece and nephew halt their education just because sister's husband got himself fired for his behavior. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your fiance's sister's family is in bad straits because of A, bad behavior on the part of her husband, and B, no one doing enough to get a job of any sort. In a year or so, neither has apparently worked at all. These are problems of their own making. Paying for a few months of rent won't get them an apartment without jobs and a good credit score, unless you guarantee the apartment, which you definitely should not do. So the money your fiancé wants won't help them. Also, as you say, your fiancé is welcome to help her family with her money. But that isn't enough, because no amount of money will ever be enough for them. Your fiancé's reaction to your refusal is a huge red flag. She's showing you who she is. Do you really want to tie your life and your finances to someone who acts like this? Who would have cut off your niece and nephew? Not the a-hole. Why are you marrying someone who wants to abandon your niece and nephew? Regardless of her want to help her own family, that shouldn't come at the expense of your own family. Not the a-hole. Your niece and nephew are being good citizens and doing the best they can by furthering their education. You made a deal with them to help finance their education, as they were dealt a less than stellar hand from the beginning, and you are following through with that. Kudos to you. Your fiancé's sister, however, is being a sponge by just taking everything from anyone she can. What happens in 3 months after they have the apartment and they still can't pay for it? Or their car's broke, or they need $500 for XYZ? Look, you're not yet married, so your fiancé really has no business getting mad at you for not supporting her sister. But your fiancé and her family also need to stop enabling her sister. It sounds like neither your fiancé's sister nor her husband are working right now. Sure, situation is a little dicey with current events, but what was she doing 6 months ago? Anyway, your fiancé's sister is being a beggar, and beggars can't be choosers. My dad married my stepmom when I, male 19, was 16, and since then she has a habit of asking me to do favors for other people. She's kind of a people pleaser, so if her neighbor or her friends mention needing help with something, she'd say either me or my dad will do it without even asking us, which was always super annoying because it's like I had no choice now because she already told them I would help. I moved out when I was 18, and my college is a 16-hour drive away, so I rarely get to see my dad. I would sometimes on holidays or some weekends, depending if I was spending it with my mom or not. And literally every time I'm here, the first thing she does is ask if I can help out so-and-so with some house stuff because they had surgery, or asking if I could give one of her friends a ride since they don't have a car. This is always an issue, and I've started telling her to stop telling people I'll help out when that's not why I'm here. My stepmom always apologizes, but then she does it again. My dad gets annoyed too, but he just goes with it. I barely saw my dad at all last year, and this last weekend was the first time I got to come visit in like 9 months. I got there Thursday night, and on Friday she was talking with her sister on the phone. I guess she just bought a house and was talking about painting the rooms before moving in. I heard my stepmom in the living room say, "Oh, hey, maybe Tyler can come over to help you paint." I was shaking my head at her no, but she just kept talking. When she hung up, I told her I'm not helping, and she didn't even ask me. My stepmom says I have to now because she just told my sister I will. But I said I'm here to spend time with my dad, not spend a whole Saturday doing someone else favors. This was going to be our first time together in months, and I wanted to spend as much time with him as possible, especially since I was leaving Sunday. Where I feel like I'm the a-hole. She said if I don't want to help, then to call her sister and tell her. I got mad and told her to call herself because she's the one who should look bad, not me. That's what my stepmom ended up doing, and she was pissed the rest of the weekend. She said I made her look bad, and it really wouldn't have killed me to do her sister a simple favor because it's not like I had something else important to do. My dad is already used to her being this way, so he thinks I should have called her sister because I should already know my stepmom hates looking bad in any way. That's why I'm wondering if I was the a-hole for embarrassing her, instead of calling myself or helping her sister paint her house. Not the a-hole, but I think you should have called because you calling the sister and saying, "Yeah, I just drove X hours to see my dad, who I haven't seen in almost a year. I have 2 days with him. The moment I get home, your sis has volunteered me to paint your house without consulting me. This was incredibly inconsiderate, and if she volunteers me to do anything for you again, you should probably run it by me first to make sure I agreed. Because that would have been even more humiliating. Instead, she can just make it about your rudeness to your sis. If it happens again with anyone else, go this route until she quits doing it. Have a good time with your dad." Not the a-hole, and keep saying no and telling your stepmom to tell people no herself. She may actually eventually learn that she can't just offer you up as a favor, but you have to be firm about your boundaries and stick to them. Besides, if she really wants to help, she can go do it herself. It's not like painting is super difficult. Not the a-hole, but why can't your stepmom do things for people? Why can't she paint the darn house? I'd be getting grumpy at this point and volunteering her to help a whole heap of my friends do ridiculous things. I'm 20, and I have a stepbrother Ethan who is 8. He has a girlfriend, Cindy, if you can call their relationship that. They're so young, and dating to them just means hanging out at recess and writing cute notes in school. My dad married Ethan's mom. The two of them are really busy and have me babysitting Ethan often. I swear, I've probably done more raising of this kid than anyone recently. Anyway, he told me that he has a second girlfriend now. I asked him what her name is and how they met. He said Jess. He met her at after-school activities. I asked what Cindy thinks of her. He said he didn't tell her. I asked how he thinks the girls would feel if they knew he had 2 girlfriends, and he seemed to dodge the question. I talked to him about how you need to be honest in your relationships, or it will make people very sad and feeling betrayed when the dishonesty comes out. This is a topic I feel strongly about. My dad cheated on my mom with Ethan's mom. My own mom is no longer with us. It was a really difficult time in my life. It still hurts. And it's important to me that I have more integrity and expect more integrity in my relationships and friends. I want to bring my stepbrother up with honesty and integrity too. So Ethan actually talked to both of the girls. First, Jess. She told him she didn't really want a boyfriend anyway. She just wanted to play and forget it. Then he talked to Cindy, and they apparently made up, and she wanted to keep being his girlfriend and best friend if he could promise they'd be each other's best friends no matter what. We had a long talk after this. I asked how he was feeling. He said he was feeling happy, that he'd been honest. He was feeling really guilty after our first talk. He didn't like how it felt to be lying, even though it seemed fun at first. I told him about how proud I was of him, how he was learning to do difficult stuff and be a good, honest, kind man, something that some people do not learn until they are much older. Some people never learn how to at all. And he'd done a very grown-up, difficult, and kind thing. I thought all was well. Then a few weeks passed, and suddenly Ethan's mom was furious at me. She had found out about what I'd asked Ethan to do, and I'd overstepped. I'm a babysitter, and I was trying to discipline him and teach him like a parent. I lost my temper at her and said that I'd been being the closest thing to a parent that he had for a year, and that the lesson I was trying to teach is something every child ought to learn before they grow up, lest they engage in infidelity and tear a family apart. She said that I was not welcome in her home if I spoke to her like that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She called you a babysitter when you're her husband's daughter. Not to mention, she was also in an affair. Might be her kid, but she's not teaching him the right thing to do. And if his mom is absentee in teaching him basic human fundamentals, then you have a right to intervene, especially because he is your brother. However, if you weren't his sitter, I would have gone with everyone sucks here. Not the a-hole. It's our job as the adults to teach the children. You did the right thing. I'm in a youth mentoring program, and I'm not the parent, but I help teach and counsel on structural and social norms and expectations. You did a great job. If his mom doesn't like it, too bad. Not the a-hole. She can't leave you in a parenting role and expect you not to parent. Also, high five. That was a really good lesson you taught him in an age-appropriate way. Just a little background. I, 14 female, grew up with my dad and stepmother, aka my dad's official wife. 5 years ago, my dad cheated on my stepmom and he got his mistress pregnant. Let's call her Emily. I left both my dad and Emily since I knew that I will be taking care of the baby. I was 9 at that time. As far as I remembered, my dad barely spoke to me and gave me monthly allowance, which is why I moved in with my grandma, mom's mother. Last year, he texted me and insisted that I move back in with him, so I decided to give it a go. I wanted to be involved in my stepsister's life as well, since I thought that it would be great. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. For the next few months I lived there, it was a nightmare. Dad expected me to clean the house every day while taking care of my sister. P.S. I have online classes and need to answer my modules to pass it on time. My schedule was to get up at 8 in the morning and babysit my sister the whole day. At 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., I would answer my modules, which was exhausting. I never got the chance to attend any of my online classes because of it. So when my dad announces that Emily is 4 months pregnant, I was furious knowing that I would be the one taking care of the baby. I had an argument with my dad and confronted him about the situation, and he said, "You are free to go back to your useless mother. I don't care anymore." I thought that my dad's side of the family was going to be angry at him, but instead, they told me that I have to accept it and play the role of a good sister. But I wasn't having it. I immediately texted my mom, and since it was lockdown, it took her days to find a ride for me to go back to my grandma's place. It was a good time for me to go, since they would be at the hospital for checkups. But before I left, I texted my dad saying, "Dad, I'm going home." And at 11 p.m., I received a message from my dad saying how Emily nearly died last night, and he left my sister in the house for 3 hours thinking I was there. But I couldn't care less anymore. We don't talk anymore, but I'm starting to question myself. Was I in the wrong? Not the a-hole. Cut off all contact with him till he apologizes to you. Even after that, do not go back to that house, no matter how much they try to convince you. Your dad, stepmother, and his family are major a-holes, and they do not deserve you in his life. What they are doing is parentifying you. Not the a-hole. If he's so neglectful of his household and his child that he couldn't even check the ducking house to make sure someone was there to watch his child, then, well, first off, he needs to be investigated for criminal neglect. Jesus doing cartwheels. That's ridiculous. Then he needs to actually step up and be a ducking parent for 2 seconds and at least maybe pay for childcare. You are not a live-in babysitter just because you're an older sibling. That is not your job. It is never your job. It is his and the mother's job as parents. Do not ever feel bad about the fact that you aren't stepping up for them. That is their responsibility. Not the a-hole. None of this ever should have been your responsibility. But consider having your grandmother call CPS to share your story with authorities. So I, female 16, have a mom who got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it ended up spreading throughout her body. She put up a good fight for a while. About a month ago, her doctors decided it would be best for her to be on home hospice. My mom agreed. Before she got put in hospice, she was at the hospital for a while trying different treatments for her cancer. My grandparents, her parents, ended up getting temporary custody since she couldn't take care of me. Since I was 5 and my parents got divorced, I'd spend every weekend with my dad. I enjoy the weekends at my dad's. 5 years ago, he married my stepmom, and I got 2 stepsisters. Well, my dad's house isn't that big, so my stepsisters share a room, and whenever I stay, I sleep on the couch in the living room. So it isn't an ideal place to stay all the time. Well, since my mom got put on hospice, I've wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. So my grandparents didn't force me to go to my dad's. They understand that I want to spend time with my mom. Well, it's upset my dad that I don't want to visit him, even though I explained that I just want to spend more time with my mom. Today, my dad and stepmom showed up at my grandparents' house, saying he's mad, and it isn't right they don't encourage me to see him a couple times out of the week. My grandparents said I can make my own decisions, and that I have every right to rather be with my mom right now. They stay at his house. My dad talked about how it is part of the court agreement, and how if he has to, he'll take my grandparents to court. I stepped in and said if you make us deal with family court while my mom is on hospice, and we're just trying to spend as much time together as possible, I'll never forgive you. My stepmom put her 2 cents in, calling me a brat, for trying to guilt trip him into letting me not go see him. She tried saying she understands I want to spend time with my mom, but that doesn't mean I can just stop seeing my dad. So am I the a-hole? Also, in my mom's will, she stated she wants me to live with my grandparents full-time, but continue to see my dad on weekends if I would like to. Not the a-hole. Your stepmom doesn't understand you wanting to spend your limited time with your mother, or else she wouldn't be trying to take it away. They have a right to want to stick to a court-ordered contract, but this is clearly a temporary extenuating circumstance, and I don't think it's unreasonable to be upset with them for not being willing to make an exception for your sake. Not the a-hole. You are old enough to decide, and the court will agree. You're also not wrong to want to spend as much time with your mom as you can. Hospice is usually end-of-life care. Not the a-hole. If it wasn't a stressful and financial burden for your grandparents, I'd tell him to go back to court. Let him explain why he wouldn't let you spend all your free time with your dying mother in hospice. He will look foolish.